Reed Richards, I'm like, is it fucking Miles Teller or is it?
It's not going to be
Ewan Griffith. Yeah, it could be though, and I'd have to play ball on
Where
it.
is Ewan Griffith?
What's he up to?
Get him on the show.
What's the
Because
last
we
thing
talk
you
about
saw
him
of it?
all
Yeah,
the
he does
time.
get a job.
He gets mentioned so much.
He's an investor in the podcast. So
Get him on Film Bites. Does anyone know Ewan Griffith? Are we saying it right?
We should keep mentioning him every episode.
Manifest him.
Next week. And also an interview with Ewan Griffith.
James, you know I have patchy knowledge of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
With the films, right?
Front-loaded knowledge, I'd say, of the early ones. Dare I speak on your behalf?
Well, I've seen up to film 4, read up to book 4.
Okay, yeah.
But it's been many, many years. I don't know Harry Potter in the same way that you do or Anna does.
Currently re-listening to book 4. Very much enjoying it.
But it's a long bit of conversation between Anna and I that I should fix that and remedy that. Yeah. And a little early in the season, because it's still August at the moment, I feel like we should wait for the autumnal times. But we decided to refresh my memory. Mainly brought about because Anna was like, you realise it's 20 years of the Goblet of Fire. And I was like, you realise that means nothing to me.
Yes.
But she said we should, catch up. And I said, you're absolutely right. Because I also want to watch The Lord of the Rings as well and fill in these gaps of my pop culture knowledge. Okay. And we rewatched The Philosopher's Stone at the weekend, and it was, which I had seen. I remember it from a kid. I'd seen it many times, and it was fun and everything. However, it was one of those times where, for the life of me, James, I could not keep my eyes open.
Oh, shame.
There is
a bit sleepy, isn't it?
It's cozy.
It's
It's
cozy.
autumnal. It's twinkly.
The Halloween dinner scene, the troll in the dungeons.
And the the Christmas scene. It's
the Hedwig takes flight around Hogwarts.
Honestly, and they go off to Hagrid's cabin to wander into the dark forest, and I am just
dark scene. Even when Voldemort's feasting on unicorn blood.
I poked up for that bit.
I'm just sure I hope so.
Did not
Do you
remember
know how scared I was when I was young.
That was scary. Yeah,
I was terrified of that.
I don't
scene.
think you'd get a scene like that anymore. I don't think you'd get a scene with nearly headless Nick pulling off his head to show you that he's nearly decapitated.
True. I think they got away with it because it was like through a translucent veil of a ghost.
I don't remember the centaur either. For me in my head, centaurs were firmly Lion Witch in the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
Which I thought, can I just say, Lion Witch in the Wardrobe, great battle scene at the end. Do you remember that with the Minotaurs and the Centaurs? Great stuff.
I can tell you a great fact about the Centaur in the first book, but I'm not going to until you read the last one.
Right. You mean watch it?
Yes, read or watch. Yeah. It's a great moment that calls to something in the end.
Okay.
In that scene, which is really good.
Okay. By the way, apologies for any banging you can hear.
Yeah,
there is some sort of work
construction
happening.
going on. I really like that film. I saw it 6 times in the cinema.
Good Lord.
When I was young. Not just because I loved it, but because at that age, I was taken to the cinema to see lots of things. But I saw a preview screening. I don't know how, but we saw like a preview premiere screening like ahead of time. I think it was like through my school actually, like they just got kids in to see it. And then 2 or 3 birthday parties, went to go see it with I think like my family. I'd seen it 6 times, bought it on VHS. For a long time I could have done like the first 20-25 minutes of the script without I could have just read you the first half of the script totally. Some great lines in there.
Great stuff.
Amazing Rupert Grint performance.
I think he's fair. I actually think, to be fair,
bloody hell,
all the kids are fine. I know they get a bad rap.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of moments which I think maybe were just mistimed in the edit. Yeah. And there is a scene where Harry first is like, oh my God, that's what they're guarding. It's the Philosopher's Stone. That's what Snape's up against. And Hermione's like, gives him like the side eye. She's like, what are you talking about?
You can imagine Chris Columbus be like, okay, Emma, you're really sort of suspicious now and you want to sort of understand that, but you don't have the answer.
I actually think they might not be like keyed in with each other, but I actually do. Yeah. I think the kids are doing fine work. I think they get too much hate for that.
And a shout out to Chris Columbus, because I've seen loads of footage of him behind the scenes, like, dealing with this movie. It's the first of a franchise. It's such a big world to idealize and capture and shoot cinematically. And he's dealing with child performances, loads of extras, titans of British cinema, and I think fair play to him for those first 2 movies for really, seeing that franchise off.
Absolutely. And you know what? I knew he was in it, and I'd seen it before. I had seen it before, but when Alan Rickman turns up as Snape, I was like, you're on a different level to the others.
Yeah.
Maybe I would say Richard Harris is also just as good. I'd forgotten how good he was before we got Gambon.
Very softly spoken and warm, grandfatherly.
Yes.
And that really changes as Harry grows up. Like your understanding of Snape in book one is he's a villain, he's one-dimensional, there's only one side to him. But I always found Alan Rickman was playing a duality sense of mysteriousness. It's like, people will think you're up to something. He takes as much time as he wants to deliver that line.
He knows exactly the right level.
Yeah.
He knows how big that role needs to be. It just
Also,
I just
he's like,
that.
now what would the three of you be doing inside on a day like this? It's like they're actually inside outside. They're sort of like they're at school. They're trapped
Also,
here, mate. They've got nowhere else to go.
Can I just say, I felt very smug because Anna, who's seen these films a dozen times, a million times, and has read the books a million times, and has listened to the audiobooks a million times.
My type of girl.
In the what, sorry?
My type of girl.
Exactly. But she's
not
not
that way.
In the Quidditch match, I was like, oh, okay, so Filch is in Slytherin then. And she was like, what? And I was like, well, Filch has stood in the Slytherin stand and he cheers when they score a point. And she was like, I don't know. Just ignore that. And I was like, well, is he or isn't he? James, can you add to that?
I would say...
I thought he would have been, as a caretaker, bipartisan. But apparently...
Do you know that he's a squib? Do you know what a squib is?
Is that going to be a spoiler?
No, not at all. It's a squib is someone who is born to a magical family but possesses no magical power themselves. So the opposite of a muggle born. So, yeah, like a Hermione who's normal family but is a witch. So he's kind of, like very much ousted, and he works at the school. That's why he's so bitter about it, because he's amongst all of these wonderful children learning magic. I wouldn't say he's a Slytherin. I would say he is like...
All I'm saying is in that scene...
I would say, like, by association, who are the people he's going to be sitting with in the stands? He's not going to want to be with the Gryffindors and the Hufflepuffs. Like, he's probably just want to be toxic with the Slytherin. So that's where I think they put him.
Interesting.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, I just thought I'd let you know that I have started. I will continue the journey. I will say, I think I might wait for the nights to draw in a little bit, for it to get a little bit colder, a little bit more autumnal.
Yeah.
Because you want to sit and enjoy that. We were watching it. The sun was coming through the windows a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you watch a film like that at the wrong time of day, the wrong time of year, it feels like you're on in a science lesson at school. You've been pulled inside. You want to go play outside, but they're making you watch stuff on the board.
Chamber of Secrets. It's a wonderful murder mystery. Clues all throughout, and then it all comes together. And who's at the end of it? Oh, this is Voldemort. Third one, time heist. Yeah, you've got a wonderful time heist.
I've always thought the third one was speaking my language, because it had werewolves, it had a time travel. I'm all there for
Fourth
it.
Content
Would you
rich,
say that the Chamber of Secrets is a better murder mystery film from Chris Columbus than the Thursday Murder Club?
I'd say, like, Chamber of Secrets to
The
call
answer is yes.
to call it like an out and out murder mystery, I think is like misleading. I like it, reading the book especially. It really feels like these pieces are all sort of coming together, and I really like the way it was interwoven. Sorry.
Welcome to episode 196 of Pulp Kitchen. It's getting on, and that means if you haven't got your tickets yet for episode 200, get on it, because it's coming round fast.
It's just made my tummy go. It's gonna be great though.
It's gonna be fantastic. We can't wait to see you there, guys. If you haven't caught up with last week's episode, which was about Caught Stealing, which also featured an interview with Matt Smith and Darren Aronofsky, go do that. We've also dropped a special about the best A24 movies. It was their 13th anniversary or something. We ran through some of the best A24 movies there are. But today, we're going to be talking about legacy sequels.
Here we go.
We are recording this a little bit ahead of time because James is away for a little bit, so we're going to shift to an editorial type episode, which we know you enjoy very, very much. And look, legacy sequels, I've been looking forward to doing this episode for a while because there are a lot. And sure enough, it's clear that you guys feel it too, because
and it feels like a growing number of legacy sequels propping up. Like it used to be a novel thing, 15 years ago, whereas now it's like, hey,
in doing
you like
the
that
research,
thing? Here's another.
In compiling the research for this episode, I couldn't believe how many there were. And this was kind of also prompted by an email we had from a listener called Evelyn, who wrote in and said, sequels. Hey, James and George, George and James. Actually, I don't know why, James, I did that on autopilot, because she actually writes, hey, George and James, James and George.
Good.
Eve goes on to say, first-time emailer, fairly long-time listener.
Thank you.
Firstly, I just want to say thank you for your podcast. It's such a good film podcast. I really enjoy listening and always look forward to new episode dropping. Thank you, Eve.
Thank you very much.
I was wondering how you were feeling overall about these sequels to films that came out years ago and crucially were great, even if not beloved by everyone, just still a good, solid film. I feel like I'm one of only a few people who get irritated rather than excited when hearing about these sequels. I'm not saying that these sequels are always bad or worse than the original, but I do believe that sometimes they are really necessary. There has been been news that there is a Bend It Like Beckham 2 coming out, and that has really annoyed me. Why can't we just have great films? Really, 20 odd years on, we need to go back to that story. The same with Freaky Friday, The Devil Wears Prada, and so many others. I know it's money and maybe people are enjoying the nostalgia, but if you want the comfort of the time period or the characters, just watch the original. I feel like these sequels impact the original. Even if you don't watch them, you know they exist. Some sequels and stories really suit a sequel, even one that occurs years on, like the Bridget Jones one, for example. But some films are just great and tell of a specific time in someone's life or a specific time period of society, and thus deserve to just be and exist as a great film. I don't know if I'm making sense, and I'm not trying to poo-poo anyone who loves sequels. I just think some films are fab and should be left alone, especially when I'm sure there are so many great screenplays untouched in studios and stories and issues currently happening and unknown heroes that deserve their stories being told. Why can't we have those films rather than sequels to films that were tied up nicely and belong in their own time and they came out as little time capsules or feelings of nostalgia? Anyway, thanks again for the pod. And once I've got the means, I'll be joining the Patreon community as well. Eve.
I think we're going to get onto this as we obviously we'll go through and discuss what worked and what didn't work about the legacy sequels. What I think is going to be a really big factor is how time has both positively and negatively affected each of the IP. For example, having an IP that was rested worked really well for The Force Awakens because we hadn't really had new movies. But for Gladiator 2, it felt random. That sequel should have come 5 or 6 years after the original at most. And I think the time has not done favors for those in that sense. And I think we'll see that as like a common thread.
Absolutely. So just to begin, as Eve touched on in her email, in the last month alone, we have had Freakier Friday, Happy Gilmore 2, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and we have Spinal Tap 2 coming out in a few weeks. We have Bend It Like Beckham 2 in production, The Devil Wears Prada 2 shooting right now, and rumours of a My Best Friend's Wedding 2 in production as well. I want to just clarify things before we begin as well. When I put this message out on our Instagram asking people what their favourite legacy sequels were, a lot of people just replied with their favourite sequels.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Legacy sequels, what we mean, a legacy sequel by definition is typically a sequel to a film that comes typically decades rather than years later and usually brings back members of the existing cast to act as a kind of relaunch, reboot of the franchise. And we'll get onto this, but The Force Awakens is the kind of template and example of this. Now, before we get into The Force Awakens era, which really starts this new era of legacy sequels, I want to just go back to a couple of things. So a lot of people talk about how actually technically the first ever idea of a legacy sequel, of bringing back a character from years past to create a new film around them, was a Martin Scorsese movie called The Color of Money, right? So there was a Paul Newman film in the 60s called The Hustler, right, where he plays a pool shark. And then in the 80s, they made a film called The Color of Money with Tom Cruise in the lead role and Paul Newman in the supporting role. And it was called The Color of Money. And that idea of bringing back a character was really interesting. And that's really funny because obviously, as we'll talk about in a little bit with Top Gun Maverick, you also had belated sequels to things like Psycho 2, which we've got a lot of horror legacy sequels coming in that kind of brought back Norman Bates. The Odd Couple 2. So The Odd Couple, great comedy, by the way, from the 60s, had a sequel in 1998, and that at the time held the record for the longest time between a sequel and its original film. Yeah. That has obviously since been broken. Yeah. And then an outlier is Tron Legacy in 2010, which is a legacy sequel, which has legacy in the title, to an IP that really was dormant, if not dead, and holds the record for being the most expensive debut film ever made. So Joseph Kosinski pitched it, and he got a $175 million budget. He'd never made a movie before, right? That was not a financial success, Tron Legacy, though.
And we're getting a new one, Tron Ares, this year.
And we're getting a new one, Tron Ares, this year. But obviously, it worked out fine for Joseph Kosinski, as we'll get onto. Yeah. So, broadly speaking, 2015 comes around, and you have The Force Awakens, which Disney buys Star Wars, reboots it with a new trilogy, and Force Awakens does that thing of you get a whole new cast of characters, but also you bring back the original people. You bring back Leia and Han and Luke, as well as Chewie and C-3PO and R2-D2. So we're just going to talk through these films little by little. But Force Awakens,
the more distance I get from Force Awakens and the following films, I really feel like it's in its own category compared to the rest. Force Awakens is a legacy sequel. The rest are just sequels to the Force Awakens in so many ways. But yeah, the Force Awakens is really, I think, it is to blame for the rest of the ones on this list, apart from the ones that came before it, because it was the original reduced piano theme, the the distant echoes of the music that played before, banking on your memory, your nostalgia, your longing, rewarding people who had been committed to a series, who knew the backstory, to have a film that was in service in them. And I do think the film totally succeeds as a legacy sequel. It's not perfect. It's very safe. We've talked about this a million times. But what I think that film was able to capture is what all of these other films I think have desperately wanted to capitalize on. Yeah. That real sense of tangible excitement, and that I really felt like it was other people saying like, that love you have for this, we feel it too. Yes. And that really was said, I think, by Luke. It was like, you have that power too. It's like, I see you, I hear your love, come back to us, we're going to make this great. And the first line of The Force Awakens, said by Max von Sydow's character, is this will begin to make things right. And I think it obviously didn't go to make things right, but it was like sort of course correcting from the prequels, had a different look and aesthetic from the prequels. The lightsaber fights were different. The grade of it was different. The visual effects were different. It was a very, very special film, I think.
And smart for also targeting, as a legacy sequel, you target a cross-section of the audience. You get
also true.
The older audience members who remember the original films. You get the younger crowd who've watched the older films but want a new one.
And the kids who are coming fresh into a new generation of fans. Make new toys, make new Lego sets. It was perfect.
It was perfect. And I agree. I think we both really liked that movie, but it did open up the kind of the gateways.
And that feeling, when we saw those first two trailers, it was like, not just this is great, it was like, oh my God, they really get it. They really, really get it. And again, you can go and hear many people talk about what happened to it afterwards and not getting it and sort of running it into the ground. And it is a case study of like how to correctly handle it and completely just mismanage an IP into where we're at now, which is a whole other conversation. But that sense of like, it feels like it was made by fans, and the people who were fans of the originals have grown up and now make films. I think that's really nice to see.
Do you know what it had? The Force Awakens with those trailers was the same feeling of finding your old toy box in the attic. And you lift up the lid and they're all still there.
And it's Luke's lightsaber.
Yeah. It's Han, but he's older. It's the Millennium Falcon. And like, it was, before we became jaded with over nostalgia shoved down our throats. Star Wars also is one of the rare IPs compared to the many other ones we're going to go through that has prime nostalgia. I think, in its canister. I think a lot of these other films that become later, that it's like, really? Was anyone sitting around waiting for a legacy sequel to this? Like you mentioned with Gladiator 2, and we'll get to that. But I think Star Wars, everyone was happy to have it back.
And it still had those bones of a classic hero's journey of a character lost without an identity, looking up at the stars like Luke did, wondering if they were meant for something more and whether or not they were special. And then someone comes and tells him, you are special. You're actually the most special person
in the universe.
Here are some magic powers and a laser sword. Go and destroy evil.
Okay, so that happens, and actually the next film I want to talk about, which actually was already in production and being made by the time The Force Awakens came out, is Creed.
Yes.
Which we forget is a legacy sequel. Yeah. Returning to the character of Rocky Balboa, he now in Sylvester Stallone's character in supporting role.
Yes.
Michael B. Jordan now stepping up. A really smart way of going, actually, let's go back up a little bit. Let's go across to Apollo Creed. Yeah. Follow his side. I've only seen Creed 1, but I broadly liked it.
I really like Creed. And I think the Rocky franchise was more accustomed to bringing itself back a bit because they'd had so many. They had like Rocky Balboa
there were
and
6
single Rocky. I think we were also a bit used to be like, oh, it's another Rocky, but they've changed the name.
And he's older now. Yeah.
And he's older. And I really liked Creed. I thought Stallone in Creed was really, really good. And the duality of like him not being well, but trying to like bring someone else up into it, reconciling the relationship of him with Apollo Creed. The moments in the last thing which says, because you're a Creed and I love you, kid. And he builds him up to do it. And it's just pure Rocky. And I think Creed 1 totally works.
And also the founding of the great relationship between Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan. They'd already made Fruitvale Station, but like that is such a great creative partnership. Yeah. And that was it in the big leagues.
I always think that film looks really good. All the stuff shot in as all Rocky stuff does, but especially with Creed, I was like, this looks slick and modern and sharp and it works. I actually really like Creed.
So I agree. Okay, and then in 2016, you get one of the worst and most forgotten about. I haven't seen it, but I think you did, which is Independence Day Resurgence.
Forgotten about a little bit, I'd say too.
Do you know what's scary?
What was Independence Day 197?
That was 20 years after the original. We are now halfway between the distance between Resurgence and what would have been the original Independence Day.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Yeah. Was Independence Day 197?
I think 96.
96. That's a long time, I think, as we'll get onto this thing as a common thread between your film and your legacy sequel. Love Independence Day 1. I think it's a really special, fun. Actually looking at it back in time as opening up the time capsule of what Independence Day is now, I think is getting more and more interesting to be like, well, hang on, where did that film come from in 1996? And Roland Emmerich just sort of like bringing this huge movie, the making of Will Smith.
I also think that as Eve touched on in her email, that film didn't need a sequel.
No,
tied up nicely.
It really didn't.
They blew up the aliens.
The
and it was
mothership.
Like, yeah, they did it.
Like they totally won, and it was like kind of smart. Like they got smart people to go and like
Jeff Goldblum on a Mac.
Yeah, they hacked into the mainframe. Like that totally worked. I've not seen Independence Day in a really long time, and I don't know how much value there is now to watching it.
Oh, I caught the last half an hour of it fairly recently, and I had a bloody good time.
Oh, you did? Okay, great.
Yeah, it's really silly fun, and I think the fact that it is so 90s kind of adds to its charm. And that was what was so bland and depressing looking about the 2016 one. It was just like resurgent, so serious.
I see them.
Yeah, come on, like in my dreams. The 1996 original, it's got Will Smith punching an alien with a cigar in his mouth, saying, "Welcome to Earth." Yeah. Like that's funny. It's stupid, but like it understands it itself. So
and just some great president acting in there, and just great
Bill Pullman.
We're gonna live on. We're going to succeed.
Why do you make him sound like Littlefinger?
He does. He's got this. He's got this Rossi. We're going to live on.
Bill Pullman, great.
And even when I watched that, I'm like, yeah, go America. Hell yeah, we're going to take care of them.
I've said this before, but one of my favorite things is Russell T Davies is being interviewed, and he talked about how he loves Independence Day. Yeah. And he says, yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, it gets all sort of over militarized at the end. It's always like, and he's like, yeah, but whatever. Those aliens are trying to kill us, all right? Who gives a shit?
That's when you want to have your standing army fucking turn up.
Okay, that's right. Give him hell.
Too right. That's right. I'm always a sucker for when humanity puts aside the issues to all come together to fight a greater evil. I'm such a sucker for that.
My first introduction to Independence Day was in Austin Powers 2, when, don't know if you remember when they're in the 60s and he threatens he's on the call with the president, who's played by Tim Robbins, and he's just like, okay, then we'll blow up the White House. And then he plays the clip from Independence Day of the White House getting blown up, and they're like, and it's like, just kidding. That's a little clip from the 1997 movie Independence Day. Anyway, when we put this out on Instagram and we said, what are people's favorite legacy sequels, one that really came back a lot was T2 Trainspotting. Yes. And it's something you and I have spoken about. And I think that film, in many ways, although it doesn't succeed in kind of capturing Trainspotting, it does do something interesting. Yeah. And I don't know if we needed it, but someone DM'd us with a really good take about why it works for them. This was from Sean, who wrote and said, T2 Trainspotting is the best one because the harking back to the past feels more organic, with the characters initiating it themselves. And the nostalgia is shared equally with the audience and the characters. Unlike legacy sequels, whereby characters put so much weight behind something that from their point of view should be not that meaningful. Some legacy sequels with predominantly returning characters seem like their lives have been on pause since the last film, but T2 makes out that a lot has happened since the events of Trainspotting. But they troublingly carry the memory with them in various ways, and I agree with that.
Well, for that, the time difference between the movies was similar to the time difference of the plot, which I think really worked. I totally agree. I've always really liked T2 Trainspotting. I don't hear a lot of people championing it, but I remember watching it and being a fan of Trainspotting 1 and being, do you know what? This really does work. I love the way they use Born Slippy in that film throughout, but in a really different way that bakes in nostalgia when he sees the mirages of his younger self walking and running down the same streets. And it is a different story because they are different people 20 years on, but nonetheless, like the stakes of what happened in the decision they've made have implicated their lives. The way it like shoots Edinburgh and shows you that like gentrification has happened since the last film was made. I think it's really solid. I've not rewatched it, but I have really fond memories of laughing, finding it fun, working as a sequel. I don't really hold it in the same category as Trainspotting 1 because I just actually think it's a completely different film, but I think it really works.
I think that it captures, if you're going to do a legacy sequel, which is just all about nostalgia, which all these films are inherently, T2 was the first one to really think about how nostalgia can be painful. And we know from things like Past Lives and season 1 of Mad Men that nostalgia means pain from an old wound. Yeah. And I think T2 understands that. And whether it's him going back to visit his father, and there's a lot of pain there. What I think just slightly undercuts it for me is that there's like the Begbie storyline is a little bit silly.
Right.
And I think it's kind of like one scene on, one scene off in that movie. But I do think, I have respect for it. It is a completely different beast. And,
in another world,
you and I started to realize that Danny Boyle is like one of the
really
best
good.
directors
Yeah.
working.
You
And I
run
think-
through his filmography. Like
Yeah.
someone wrote in and was like, he's never made a good film. Which
What
I think
the
is,
hell are
I
they
think it's
talking
such
about?
a bad. It might be one of the worst takes we've got. I love you if you're still listening, but it's just so wrong.
Yeah.
And like I think back at like so many films which I love, and even some films that other people don't love, but I do, and I'm like, he's a really, really good filmmaker. And I said this. Did I say this to you offline? I want to go and watch my.
No, you said on double take.
A double take. I said I want to watch one of my two Danny Boyle blind spots, which is Sunshine and Shallow Grave.
Yeah.
But like most of his films, I really,
Yeah,
really
yeah.
love. And I think I'm also just coming out of 28 Years Later, which I think is a
Yeah.
triumph of a movie. He's brilliant.
I think, let me know, do watch those other two. 'cause
Yeah,
I'm keen
yeah,
to hear
I
your
will
thoughts
do.
about it.
I will do.
Okay, then moving on later in 2017, we get what was a lot of people's top picks for the best definitive legacy sequel, and that is Blade Runner 2049. Very much it feels like they saw Harrison Ford in The Force Awakens and said, well, you know what he's also done?
Yeah.
Bloody Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So, I think a lot of us were very nervous when this film came out.
Totally.
I really like the original Blade Runner. Has a few problems here and there, but ultimately I think it is still a landmark film. And then this one came along, which a lot of people think of as better than the original.
I've seen Blade Runner 2049 3 times. Every time I've got the first time I think I had like a positive experience. Second time I watched it, I was like, this is so good. And the third time, like, I just noticed even more things about the plot that I'd forgotten about. Because Denis Villeneuve went on go do Dune and all sorts, and he is now going to be taking care of Bond. I'm actually more excited because of his work on Blade Runner 2049 that he's going on to do Bond than I am necessarily from Dune. Not to say Dune isn't incredible. I really felt like he was a student of the Blade Runner IP and really carried it on, made it something distinct, different, modern, but his own. To me, I'm excited about what he does with the James Bond IP because of his work on Blade Runner 2049. That to me gets me so excited.
I think one of the best things about Blade Runner 2049 is that there's a central, the thing that everyone talks about with the original Blade Runner, which is to do with Deckard's identity. It takes that idea, opens it up, expands it, looks at it without actually declaring an answer either way, but in a really satisfying way. You can read 2049 in both ways and the film works. And I also think that Blade Runner was one of those, probably to the film's benefit, was one of those IPs that was respected and known, but it wasn't like there was a rabid fan base clamoring for a sequel. So it kind of gave them the creative space to work on it. And it didn't also set up for a springboard for loads of other Blade Runner sequels subsequent to it.
The story's always been translucent. You sort of see it, but not really. I agree on what you said. And it's one of the best looking films I've ever seen.
Yes.
Shot by Roger Deakins. It's truly, truly every frame a piece of art.
I don't know whether this is about... I don't know what this is a comment on, but I noticed the difference that I have in the first one and the second one is that, like, and I have probably said this before on the show, the first Blade Runner, with its Vangelis score and everything, is slightly almost like dreamlike, balletic. Although it's dystopian and it's heavy and it's dark and it's raining, there's something twinkly. And if you listen to the score, Rachel's song and things like that, it's very dreamlike.
It's grounded and dreamlike at the same time, isn't it?
And then 2049, it doubles down on the heavy industrial growls, the sort of earthiness. And I'm wondering, like, that is great and it's a great contrast. But I'm also wondering, in the world of the film, is it just trying to also be a comment on, like, things have just gotten darker and heavier? Things just are even more dystopian than they were 30 years ago. Good movie.
Again, I think, as you said, I would have been really apprehensive to go and see it. And if it hadn't happened and they were putting it out today, I'd be like, no, don't do Blade Runner. But I encourage you, if you were ever just a little bit like, oh, I don't want to see that, treat yourself.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. And I almost think, if you haven't seen Blade Runner, I still kind of think it works. There'll be less that you can pick up on. You might have to fill in the blacks, but it kind of works as a standalone film.
Harrison Ford... His chapter in the story
towards the end,
is
especially,
towards
I think,
later.
might be lost on you a bit.
But it's also like, for a good 2/3, that's Ryan Gosling's movie.
And a really good Ryan Gosling performance in there.
And Roger Deakins at his best. It's fantastic.
It's so good. Him lying on the steps while the snow is falling. Oh, it's beautiful.
Before we move on, I just want to also clarify that a few people wrote in and were saying things like Twisters, for example. Now, Twisters, yes, it's an old IP they brought back.
Yeah.
Not classifying that because it's not a direct sequel. That's like just a straightforward reboot.
Yeah,
There was no Helen Hunt came back in that or anything like that.
Yes,
so I'm kind of ignoring that. Moving on to 2021, on the other side of COVID now. Look, one that we return to because we forget that it exists, which is The Matrix Resurrections, which we reviewed on this show. So I, at the time,
you
didn't mind it. And I still maintain the first act of that movie is still fairly interesting and has interesting ideas there. But I do concede that in the 3-4 years since we reviewed that movie, it's completely dissolved away from pop culture. And it's like there's been a Men in Black neuralizer, and none of us, nobody remembers the
Matrix. It was an
Matrix 4.
expensive movie as well, off the top of my head, but don't
It
quote
didn't
me
look
on
cheap. It didn't look cheap.
So different to you, like starting to eat a meal that's off. I think almost immediately I was like, this is not what I want here. I didn't like it. The ways they had sort of recast characters, I thought was very confusing, even to me who'd known. I don't think there was a good enough plot reason to justify the recasting. I'm not saying the new people didn't do a great job. It's not on them. The story did finish with 3, and those sequels were if you're looking really optimistically, a 7 out of 10 at their best.
Yeah.
Right? If you were through rose-tinted glasses,
like a 9.9 out of 10.
Through rose-tinted glasses, if you squint at the CG at the best action scenes, those films are a 7 out of 10. And I think the story kind of ended, and it's the same thing that happened with Star Wars. It's quite frustrating when, for example, Darth Vader at the end of Star Wars makes the ultimate sacrifice for love to destroy evil. That's a really good sacrifice, and unfortunately is very much undermined by the need to make sequels. I kind of feel like Neo should have finished at the end of Matrix 3. That's what he did. He was the one, and he brought about thing and all the philosophical ideas around that. I thought the aesthetics of it were bad. The redoing of scenes like in the dojo. I don't really have that many memories of it. Maybe some of the nicest bits were like Carrie-Anne Moss and Keanu Reeves like having meet cutes in cafes. That was some of like the sort of the love story of them connecting in another world of the Matrix was more compelling to me. But the rest of it, I really, really did not appreciate.
Am I having a seizure? But is Neil Patrick Harris in that movie?
I think he is.
Isn't he the architect? And Jonathan Groff's in it. And
Jonathan
it's all a bit
Groff is
theater kid.
Smith. Yeah.
I love Jonathan Groff, but
it was a bit
Mr. Anderson. It's funny because Eve's email touched on how some movies should have had a sequel straight away.
Yeah.
And some movies do really well to have this time gap. The Matrix just did both. Yeah. It had sequels churned out really quickly that it didn't really need. And then it also had the belated one. As we talked about before, Matrix 1, a perfect movie.
Perfect movie. Just to wipe the slate clean, Resurrection's never happened. If you were forced, Hollywood says, George, I want you to reboot The Matrix. Do you think you could, not you personally with your abilities, do you think one could remake The Matrix? Reboot The Matrix.
So they are doing that. So Dan Trachtenberg, who did Prey, the Predators film I really liked, and I think he did like 10 Cloverfield Lane and that kind of stuff, is working on a new treatment for The Matrix. I do think yes, but you don't touch Neo, Morpheus, any of that stuff, or Smith. You just go back to the world and this idea. But
isn't the core to The Matrix like that philosophical idea of like, oh, there's a one and there's a teacher and there's I can't get.
But also like it is kind of done. Anyway.
It's a poster child for a terrible legacy sequel. As far as I'm concerned.
I think the problem is that the first one is still like so watched and so popular. It is the reason not to make another sequel to it because it speaks for itself.
And it didn't set up a sequel.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't at all. It just it alludes onto a greater, higher plane when he flies off and Rage Against the Machine plays.
Okay, we move on. And now to another one that people say is the greatest legacy sequel, which I do think it has a great amount of credence behind it, which is, of course, Top Gun Maverick. What a film. And I really think that you and I think very fondly about that time because that was while we did the show, that came out, and it really felt like the shackles of COVID had gone. Cinema was back. It was really, really exciting. I had that nice thing with my friends, like catching up with them in the park, and that feeling you had when you were a kid when everyone had seen it and they just wanted to talk about it. Have you seen it? Oh my God, I love that bit. I love this and I love that.
And our show kind of started at the tail end of COVID, and that was the first premiere we got invited to. And it really felt like not just our show, like getting access to those things, but Hollywood was opening up a bit.
Yeah.
It was one of the big films, big star, big movie, big screen action, IMAX. It was like this sort of like wake up from the nap cinema moment for that.
I also think it worked because, we said this time, Top Gun 1,
it's a strange movie.
It's not a great movie.
No.
Nothing happens. Only one thing happens, and that one thing is exactly what they build Top Gun Maverick around.
Yeah,
literally
very well.
And
we'll unpack this.
I think as a way of dusting something off, and building on it, Top Gun Maverick is a perfect exercise.
I said when I reviewed it, I was like, this film had no right to be as good as it was.
Yeah.
I thought my best expectations would be like, yeah, solid, but I thought it was a triumph.
Yeah.
It's like a 9 out of 10 film for me. It's just delivers, and like there's so many fun stock characters, like cynical, casts of doubt John Hamm, optimistic with a lot of personal demons, Tom Cruise. There's a wonderful scene when he's training these troop, and Glenn Powell is there and Miles Teller is there, and they're training, and he's explaining the stakes. What you're watching it all go wrong, showing them they have to push harder, but they can't. There are fractions within the team, and it all builds to this great moment when Glenn Powell insults Miles Teller, and it results in this physical fight, and it's this wonderful like breathe of fresh air, tension rise, and then the scene comes back down. I'm like, it's just beautifully crafted, and then it's got a wonderful fourth act, which I didn't see coming, that I thought was so much fun. It was both relevant to the story and had personal stakes. It was just great writing, great characters, set up, delivery, and I think what they did with Val Kilmer in that was just the right touch for everything going on with him at that moment of his life. To have him be a part of it, considering what he was going through, I just think was great. And the great Tom Cruise delivered in every way he knew how. It's a really great film, and also just innovative that these actors were rolling with not even technical IMAX cameras. They had 4 camera sensors taped together to stitch in post what would be an IMAX scene, actually flying planes, actually like angling themselves with the sun, getting the shots in the canyon. I can't even imagine like explaining that that's how you're going to film something and doing it practically. I think it's just really impressive.
I thought it was great. Actually, I think when you reviewed it, you said this is how you do it. This is how you do a legacy sequel.
Yeah.
I think that's, when you see something like Blade Runner 2049, it's not as mainstream. It almost feels like an artistic expression of Denis Villeneuve. But this is like so more mainstream. You feel like, this should be the template.
Yes.
This is the way to do it. This is so exciting.
It was almost like watching a troupe of actors, the sequence where they have to go down and fly through the canyon and come up in time and not pass out. It was like they were rehearsing for the play, and the actual play was the night of. But it's
you're right,
when it came to perform, I knew exactly what they had to do, and I knew how dangerous it was. And people have called it like a sort of semi-Death Star run. But really, you don't really know what's happening in the Death Star run until the Death Star run's happening, really. But actually, in Top Gun Maverick, you're like, oh my God, this is it. They're doing it.
It's a heist movie. In a way, it's like a heist movie or a prison break movie where you know the plan, you've got the objective, but something always goes wrong.
Yeah.
Great fun.
Thinking on their feet. And completely apolitical. Just
fantastic.
an amorphous sort of Eastern European, Korean, communist, maybe Russian. Who knows what it was?
Doesn't matter. It's just the enemy with a capital E.
I could draw you a 300-kilometer radius as to roughly where it is on planet Earth, but honestly couldn't tell you.
And I think it understands Tom Cruise's star power. Like he also he gets to be vulnerable in this movie. He gets to show off a little bit. He gets to have his ego in check. Bit of romance.
Yeah, and he looks great. Volleyball scene. The Mach, you got to go Mach 10. What, against F-16 fighter jets? Are you kidding me? Or F-18s? I don't know.
Thanks for saving my life. It's what your dad would have done. That's what my dad would have done.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
I'm sucker for it.
I've actually got another one which is in on this list, but which is like the bottom end. A franchise that had already been rebooted, and then they decided, you know what? Why don't we make the third one a legacy sequel, which is Jurassic World Dominion? When they were like, our Jurassic Worlds aren't really going anywhere. Why don't we bring in Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum? Yeah,
because World 1 technically isn't really kind of... you know what? It kind of is in the sense that John Hammond is a character who's like referred to, and it's very much... It's in the same timeline and world, but I know you're right. I think... It was peak legacy sequel when we got all of those. And I remember seeing all of them on screen and thinking, there's too many of you here. Yeah. The blocking is too intentional.
Speaking of which, and I'm probably jumping around a little bit here, but I can sort of smush them together. The Ghostbusters.
Oh my God.
Ghostbusters Afterlife and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Similarly, God. I saw the post, I thought, who is this for? Why does this exist? And when we saw Frozen Empire last year, we were just like, there are too many people on screen.
It was too much.
You need to kill some people. But they wanted to protect everyone. They wanted to have all the old people back.
God, that was rubbish.
That was really bad. Next up, on Harrison Ford's trajectory of let's do a legacy sequel, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
I would argue he's got two. That both Kingdom of Crystal Skull is a legacy sequel.
You're right.
An early one.
He delivered 2 legacy sequels. This was a huge flop as well.
A huge flop. And I remember when I reviewed Dial of Destiny, I was like, we already did this with Temple of Doom, and it didn't work. Sorry, with Crystal Skull. It didn't work. Yeah. People complained at the time that he was a little bit too old and looked like not the Harrison Ford we remember. Go and check out my review from the time. I really, really didn't like Dial of Destiny. If you've seen it and you've seen the end of it, I remember looking at the screen going, no. like really just grimacing and shaking my head, being like, not like this. This really isn't what I wanted.
Not like this.
Not like this.
I put it on the plane and I couldn't finish it. You know, it's that bad. It was a 9-hour flight,
It's
and I thought,
very
give me
sleepy.
something else.
It's like something very sleepy you put on for your grandparent who just wouldn't realize it's not old.
I also think it was like such a symbol of Hollywood pushing a trend, obviously where it didn't work. Like, I think the idea of, I said this is why I didn't go see it at the time. The idea of an Indiana Jones 5 as being a viable option, as being a credible movie option for people to go and see is a joke. It's a parody. It's the kind of thing you would see in a Simpsons joke in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to be pushing out Indiana Jones 5. And
21.
And he's like, in his 80s, it's ridiculous. No one wants to see that.
Yeah.
That's why Harrison Ford has done very well now in downshifting into, not downshifting rather, but pivoting into something like Shrinking, where he's doing really well. A TV role where he's sat behind a desk and doing some talking.
And I want to be clear, like, I have no sort of like snootiness towards like the fun action adventure Disney-esque style film. Like, I love Indiana Jones. It's not because I don't think there's a right time and place for that type of film. You know me, I'm all for.
Hey.
I'll give Fountain of Youth a go.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't work, but like I'll get National Treasure going again. I really like this type of film, but it just not with Indiana Jones, not with that character. Do your thing and leave it be. We're going to keep saying this quite a lot.
Then moving on to 2024, and one that was a huge surprise for us, and I guess a boon for the industry when they keep wanting to push these out, which was Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Look, Beetlejuice 1, I don't mind. I think it's got some nice moments. It's a little bit dated, but it has its moment in time for being freaky deaky Tim Burton.
I didn't have a bad time. It was just like
with the original.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, I was just saying the original.
Sorry.
But then Beetlejuice we saw, and no, we didn't have a bad time. We chuckled a few times.
I was like, okay,
but
they made another one.
I genuinely thought this was going to flop so hard. I thought, who's walking around itching for Beetlejuice? And I really think it was just a combination of small things that Tim Burton's still a bit of a name, Michael Keaton's still a bit of a name, Catherine O'Hara's big now after back of Schitt's Creek. Jenna Ortega's a huge star. Yeah. It looked creepy and odd and weird, and it was a huge hit.
Yeah, unsurprisingly, and it was
no, you mean surprisingly?
No, sorry, surprisingly, and it was it was that and Bad Boys.
Oh yeah, which is
for Live, which we'll get onto, were like these weird surprise, not that bad films.
Yeah,
like, these are okay.
But so around about the same time, you'd already had Bad Boys 3 and 4. So Bad Boys Ride or Die, and then Bad Boys for Life, then Bad Boys Ride or Die. We saw Bad Boys Ride or Die.
Yes.
Which were also solid, not terrible,
not bad,
and financially very successful.
I guess. Yeah.
So,
and do you remember that crowd? The big crowd in Central London screening had a great time. Manic energy, laughter. People were loving it. I think that really helped us.
No, but you're also right. But like that's compare it to like when you saw Final Reckoning. I'm talking about audience reception.
Yes. Yeah. Sorry.
When you saw Final Reckoning, you told me that it was very dead.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, it was.
But Bad Boys for Life, Bad Boys Ride or Die, whatever, Bad Boys 4. Sorry, it's because it should be Bad Boys for Life, but actually it's Bad Boys 3. Yeah. Anyway, but that was a really exciting crowd. That's what you want. You would be that engaged and that laughing at the right bits, cheering at the right bits. Anyway, we move on. But Beetlejuice. I couldn't believe it was a success. And
I'll never watch it again.
You'll never watch it again?
No.
I told Anna to watch it on a plane, and she did when she went traveling this year. And she was like, in many ways, it's complete rubbish. But I didn't mind it. And I was like, that kind of sums it up quite well. What I think before we continue with the other ones, though, is that already you're seeing that there's not... It's hard to know... You know, in last week's episode when you talked about the big flops there had been, and we said, like, it's hard to know why some films flop and others don't. Yeah. In the same way that, like, what makes a good legacy sequel and what doesn't seems very... varied, really is IP specific. Which later that year, end of last year, we got Gladiator 2. Which
huge film. Huge. Can we just remember the premiere, the ad spend?
Loves going to the premiere. Don't get me wrong.
Fantastic. I think to this day the biggest premiere we've been to.
Yeah.
We went to this drinks overlooking Leicester Square with cheese and RADA actors in togas having a full-on stage fight. It was like, I'm just having brie and gammon going, wow, this is entertaining. And it was like cocktails and then the red carpet. It was the full takeover of Leicester Square. Massive. And everyone was kind of talking about the film in positive and negative ways. Like, it's going to be rubbish. It's going to be great. The biggest star, Paul Mescal at the time. Denzel, Pedro. It was a huge film. And I think I almost felt like, you can probably listen back. We almost thought there's no way we're going to love it.
Yeah.
At one point, I thought maybe this is actually going to be brilliant. And in my sort of optimistic Top Gun Maverick mind, I was like, this could totally work. And I think within 30, 40 minutes of watching the film, you and I were quite decided we weren't enjoying it. The film was just over 2 hours.
Yeah.
It became quite clear to me quite quickly. I was like, oh, no, I don't think this is going to turn around.
I think with a lot of these things, you can inherently see when there is no reason for it to exist. Yeah. And that
the son Lucius thing was very tenuous link to the first film.
Gladiator, it ended quite conclusively.
Beautifully as well.
Beautifully. Yeah, and very conclusively. Yeah. And this one impinged on that ending.
And tried to set up more films.
And tried to set up more films. And I just think it's I think it's quite creatively barren movie. Yeah. You know, there's been all the talk about how Ridley Scott shot it, and I think also just like the way it kind of scribbles over the first one. Yeah. And it was such a disappointment, such a boring film.
Very, very aware of how uncomfortable my seat was, and I've seen many films in those seats.
Don't like the baboons.
No,
didn't love the baboons.
Sharks got ridiculous. I don't care what old scroll said. Maybe they flooded the Colosseum. That was ridiculous.
Paul Mescal.
The fights in the original Gladiator are realistic and grounded. When the knife slashes, blood comes out. And yes, there was the sense of spectacle with the tigers and whatever else they had. But I'm sorry,
the CGI sharks.
And the boats. Like how far is a boat meant to move in a Colosseum? Sure, it just crashes into the side. I'm sorry.
I think. Yeah, and Paul Mescal miscast, and
Denzel doing some interesting work, but actually, like, is it that much credit, really?
It was a huge disappointment, but I think that frustrated a lot of people. I think that's why a lot of us have this reticence now. And I look back and I'm just like, it just doesn't need to exist. Yeah. It's not like it was going for an idea and it didn't work. You know, maybe with Indiana Jones, you could say for a franchise that we'd already had so many chapters of, maybe it deserved one final chapter. But was that really... It's Gladiator singular. It's about the Gladiator man.
To call it 2 is just ridiculous.
Do you remember last year I was like, they're not going to call it Gladiator 2, are they?
Yeah.
And then they just called it Gladiator 2. It's the most stupid title ever. Yeah. Okay, moving on, just a couple more. I think this counts in a way. Well, I would say Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy, which I really liked earlier this year. But my argument is that is basically just a standard sequel because we've had Bridget Jones movies every couple of years, right? But I think... And I said this at the time of the review, if you just get rid of the middle 2 sequels, you have Bridget Jones 1, and then you have Mad About the Boy Operate as a legacy sequel to the first one, it works great.
Colin Firth is kind of like the Han Solo of that.
Yes,
he's in that role.
And I could put people, going back to Danny Boyle, reference 28 years later, but I think this is almost a borderline one because, yes, it's a legacy sequel in that it's like a dormant IP and you return to it, but it doesn't bring back any existing characters.
I think its sequels will be legacy sequels. Based on what might most likely be the plans
Killian,
for 28 years later too.
Yeah.
Killian, and they shouldn't call it that.
No, I'm just looking forward to 28 decades later. In space. Hey, mate, I can tell you.
I kind of dig that.
They're on the satellite. They're looking down at Earth. Earth has been overrun by the rage virus. But then, like, I don't know, one last little pod comes up to the spaceship. You get basically a crossing alien and 28 years later.
You're describing an alien film, yeah.
But it's like an alien this time. I love it. Yeah. I don't love it. Please don't make it. Just quickly, because we're at the end of the last run there, I just want to reference some other ones that came out in the time period that we covered that we don't have to talk much about. But like Terminator Dark Fate brought back Linda Hamilton.
And Genesis, you can argue. So, it's got Arnie in it.
Yes, I guess. I just think more Dark Fate because they retconned all the other ones and they brought back Linda Hamilton and they were like, this is just a direct sequel to Terminator 2.
The last Terminator I've seen
is 3.
Salvation.
Oh God, I didn't even see Salvation.
Yeah.
Look, that franchise has one good movie.
I've not watched any of the post-Salvations.
One great movie, one good movie, and that's it.
Yeah.
Although I used to watch Rise of the Machines a lot when I was a kid.
This is true about once you really break down a lot of franchises. This is true. Like the Jurassic films. One great movie, one's good movie.
Horror has been quite popular in getting legacy sequels. So do you remember they did the whole Halloween new trilogy? So in 2018 they brought out a movie called Halloween, which was actually they retconned like 8 movies, and they just made a direct sequel to Halloween called Halloween that came out 40 years later with Jamie Lee Curtis. Then they brought out Halloween Kills, which 2 of my mates rave about. They had so much of a good time. I think they might have been really drunk when they went to see it, but they said they had a great time.
Good with a beer.
And then Halloween Halloween Dies or Halloween Ends, I think was the last one, which was going to be awful. I didn't see Scream 5, also called Scream, which was when they brought Scream back from being dormant for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I had a bloody good time with Scream 6. That was good fun.
Yeah.
Hocus Pocus 2, James.
I love Hocus Pocus 1. I've not managed
Yes.
to catch 2 because I didn't hear great things.
Disenchanted was another one. Beverly Hills Cop Axel F, which came out on Netflix.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, Happy Gilmore 2 and more and beyond. So like there are so many.
I would say that we've got a Lord of the Rings Hunt for Gollum film coming soon. Do you know about this?
Yeah. Andy Serkis is directing.
Andy Serkis directing, obviously reprising as Gollum, and Ian McKellen returning. The period of time in the Fellowship of the Ring where Gandalf is like, this is Bilbo's ring. I don't know what it is yet. Put it in an envelope. Keep it secret. Keep it safe. In the films, Gandalf disappears for what feels like 2-3 months to go and do some research, realizes that it is the One Ring, runs back to Frodo and is like, is it secret? Is it safe? That's like a 6-minute thing in the movie. Apparently in the books, that's a 17-year time period where he disappears. And this film takes place within that period where he goes, I need to find out if this is the One Ring. Ian McKellen is returning for that, and maybe Viggo Mortensen and probably Orlando Bloom, and obviously Gollum. Kind of makes it a legacy sequel before the IP expiration for the Tolkien estate runs out. I do slightly worry. Don't get me wrong, Ian McKellen, absolute national treasure. I think he's one of the great performers, a beloved steward of the great franchises of my lifetime, right? He is getting on a bit, and he was getting on a bit when he did The Hobbit. Like, he was still great in The Hobbit, but, he was definitely much older than he was when he shot Rings in the late 90s. And now I'm slightly concerned that we're bringing him back again in his 80s, Ian McKellen?
I think he's in it because he's in his mid-80s. Because he was younger than Tom Cruise is
86.
now. He's the same age as Tom.
1939.
Wow, he's the same age as Tom Cruise is now when he shot Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring.
That blows my mind. But yeah, I'll be first in line for a ticket. Cannot wait to see it. A lot of trust for Andy Serkis and obviously Peter Jackson and co producing. But yeah, that is one coming. Is the Hobbit trilogy legacy sequel? It's prequel, but getting it.
Can I say, James, what's a legacy sequel you would like to see?
What's a legacy sequel?
You could argue the before films are legacy sequels each time.
Oh yeah, of course,
because they're time gaps.
Definitely
big time
are.
gaps.
Definitely are. That's a legacy sequel franchise. Series.
Can we invest in the before?
And what's happening with before?
We think it should be before would be the fourth one in space.
I want to give them both $40 million to come back.
They discover a time machine, okay, and it's going to be like Back to the Future 2, and then they're going to walk around Vienna at the same time as their younger selves.
I want a True Lies legacy sequel. I really don't. True Lies is brilliant, though. It's really good.
Anyway, we could go on, but guys, write in to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com if you have some thoughts on legacy sequels as well.
Should one for Hamlet.
What, the Shakespeare?
Get weird with it.
Everyone's...
I know. It's a joke.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, it'd be a good joke if you thought it through. So that's fine. So moving on. Let us know your thoughts to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com.
I was like, what's really old? And I was like, Frankenstein. I was like, that probably exists.
Some good movies in there and some bad ones.
Sure.
But the fact remains, we're getting more and more of them all the time. They're coming thick and fast. And my nostalgia gauge is running low. It's on red. The dial is little flicking.
It's becoming more and more... we're just getting more and more cynical as we see legacy sequels get announced, as we see trailers for them. We're like,
things that really don't disturb the nostalgia coming back to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we shall move on with some emails. James, should we read up some emails as we do at this time of the show? As you can tell, James normally says this bit and I'm new to it.
There are certain bits that one of us does. Yeah, like you usually end the waffle.
Yes.
You always come in and you summarize what's on the menu. And for some reason...
I like being a maitre d'.
For some reason, like 19 out of 20 episodes, I do the email thing. And when you don't, I'm like, of course it's fine for you to do it. It's just not peculiar.
James, you can write into the show. What do we say? James, as ever, you can have your thoughts, your reviews, your concerns, your problems read out on the show by emailing in.
Questions, concerns.
Thank you. By emailing hello@Pulp Kitchen. Podcast. No, .com. Oh, God. Hello@PulpKitchenPodcast. Do you know what, James? You do it.
George, should we go through some of the emails that we get sent into the show every single week? As always, guys, if you want to send in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your reviews, you can, of course, send them in to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com, or you can support us at the VIP tier on Patreon and have priority access to have your email read out on the show. This first one is from Natalie. Natalie writes in with subject line, on flight movies as a type A person. Dear James and George and James. My name is Natalie, a journalism student from Scotland and a movie fiend. I pictured you saying that in the Heath Ledger voice. My father was a journalism student from Scotland and a fiend. I'm emailing as I'm currently in Boston for the summer. Side note.
By the way, sorry, just a couple of these emails are a bit old. So this email, Natalie, thank you for sending it in, was a few weeks ago.
From July. Oh, yeah.
I hope you don't mind. But anyway.
I'm emailing. I'm currently in Boston for the summer. Side note, while over here, I've been watching as many films set in Boston as possible. I just watched Good Will Hunting for the first time, and I don't think I'll ever emotionally recover.
I think if you're going to go for a Boston movie, that's great, but also surely The Departed. The Departed. Get him out of here.
So good. With an 8-hour flight and no Wi-Fi, there was no coming in between me and the on-flight movies. I came prepared with a notebook ready to tally the films I observed other people watching, as well as writing notes down about my own. I love that people, like with a clipboard.
I love that.
Going through the Pulp Kitchen clipboard, I hope.
As the air steward's going past, going, meat or chicken? You know, meat or fish? And then Natalie's going through, going,
Dial of Destiny.
Deadpool Wolverine, was it? Okay.
You've been in flight movies here, I know, blah, blah, blah. With regards to what George mentioned in the Life of Chuck episode about the shortlist.
That was what I said in James's Life of Chuck review about wanting to have a shortlist when you go on a plane, you want to steal the options, you want to create a little playlist to shortlist.
Yes, you did say that. I feel your pain, as that's what a type A person that's why, as a type A person, I scroll through all the films, write down the list of ones I want to watch with timings, and then prioritize by are they easily accessible on the outside length of the film and how badly I want to watch them. My selection for the flight: Twisters, Novocaine, not seen, and Heretic.
Yeah.
Heretic works for a plane.
Yeah.
Heretic. I think it'd be better to watch it in a dark screen, but it's our cinema, sorry. But maybe at night on a plane.
Could do, yeah. Yeah, that's a night flight. My God, we've created a subcategory now of flights.
Night flight.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like, the consideration is at a night flight, you're falling asleep. You need to be careful of that. You know, but a day flight, you're on. You need to be entertained. Anyway, I expected the other picks on the plane to be similar. However, I was surprised. In first place, we had A Complete Unknown.
Oh, good.
Not a bad plane movie pick. I think it deserves a little bit more, but I could see many people choosing that.
I actually, cynically, I thought it would be something much more mainstream and big budget superhero blockbuster movie.
Yes,
but for it to be the Bob Dylan biopic, fair enough.
I think that's. I didn't see that. People might say.
Yes, that's right.
I think wrongly might have gone. Oh, I didn't catch that.
You know what it is? Perhaps people are like, look, I want to go watch something safe and big and fun at the cinema. I don't want to watch the Bob Dylan biopic. But when they're on the plane, they're like, well, I can whack it on. I can always turn it off.
Oh, honey, look, that's the Bob Dylan one, isn't it? You like Bob Dylan, don't you, Jeff?
Don't you?
In second place, we had Mission Impossible. Now, you've not specified any Mission Impossible. I'm going to assume it's a recent Mission Impossible.
Dead Reckoning Part 1. Well, or just Dead Reckoning.
Either that or both of them. We could have them both by now.
No, they would. Do you think they'd have Final Reckoning on there, you think?
Maybe. Ooh. But like either way, that's fine. It deserves a big screen, I'd say. Yeah. But it's gonna happen. And surprisingly, in third place, I'm Still Here.
That's the Brazilian movie I watched earlier this year.
While I haven't seen it yet, this surprised me. As it's usually it's blockbusters galore. Go and check out George's review of I'm Still Here from a few months ago. But always fascinating to see. I'll never not find it interesting.
That's
and
quite a discerning list, I'd say.
I'd say so too. Yeah.
It's because they're going to Harvard. That's why they're flying to Boston.
Yes,
It's the Ivy League plane.
The Ivy League plane. Thank you for creating such a good podcast, which I continue to recommend to all my friends. Sirens on my end, Natalie. P.S. I want to thank you. I've struggled with sleep for easily over 10 years. Sleep deprivation is nothing new to me, and I've tried everything under the sun to help me sleep at night. But I've recently found that listening to your early editorial episodes on 0.8x speed really helps. I've listened to them.
Not 0.08, it's almost normal, isn't it? But it's just a little
slightly
slower. It'll be a bit like this, and perhaps now if she's listening to it, it will also sound even slower. Daisy.
I've listened to them already when awake, don't worry. But just want to thank you for helping me get my 8 hours. Natalie, thank you so much. And sorry we're so late to get to your email.
I will say that it does sound like a backhanded compliment, but when people say they use us to sleep, I can't help but be proud.
Yeah, no, I'm really happy with that.
It's really nice. It means they find us comforting.
And easy to listen to. We're not an ear sore.
Oh, yes.
Some podcasts, I'm like, I do listen to some podcasts to go to sleep, but I'm like, well, I wouldn't listen to that one. That's a fun, chaotic, loud one. And I don't think, hey, we have fun on here. But I also think it's sleep ready.
This next email is... Thank you, Natalie, for that email. That was great. This next email is from Nicholas, who writes in and says, in defense of James Cameron.
Okay.
Hi, James and George. Just listened to your second Perfect Movies podcast. Again, some of these emails are a bit late. And I have some thoughts. But first, I want to defend James Cameron, who I'm sure is right now busy editing Avatar 3 down to the 4.5-hour version we'll get in cinemas in December, against the unfair assertion that he unwittingly had Jack and Rose cause the deaths of 1,500 people in the North Atlantic in 1912.
Famously, they distracted
you said they distracted
Deck and the Crow's Nest from seeing the iceberg in the nick of time.
The fact that the lookouts were distracted by Jack and Rose running on the deck is entirely their responsibility. Their one job is to look out, not look down, not look up, not look across, and definitely not perv on two teenagers on deck.
Too right.
The fact that these fictionalized lookouts were distracted and didn't see the looming iceberg, and therefore 1,500 people died in a fictionalized sinking, is not Jack and Rose's fault in the slightest. But I did want to thank the two of you for some school holiday. I'm a high school teacher inspiration. I decided, after listening to your original Perfect Movies podcast and reading the New York Times best films of the century and readers poll, to catch up on the many films which have been my movie blind spots for me. For some reason, I just never saw them when they came out, but I've been averaging 2 a day for the past week.
Well done.
And that's a great run. And I've now caught up on the following. Whiplash. Watched it first following your strong recommendation and really like it. Parasite, No Country for Old Men, Mad Max Fury Road, Moonlight, La La Land, not as good as Whiplash, Inside Llewyn Davis, Get Out, The Holdovers, The Florida Project, and Roma.
What a list of films.
Fantastic.
Done so well there.
By the way, I think Inside Llewyn Davis is the name of a film, is the film title that people get the wrong.
How are you doing there?
And they get it the wrong. Shouldn't have gin with lunch. Shut up, Leon. I think Inside Llewyn Davis is the film title that people get wrong the most.
What do they call it?
Inside Llewellyn Davis, which is what Nicholas has written and is what I used to think it was. No, and then it's Llewyn.
Not since we've been doing this.
Not since we've been doing. Not since I've seen it. But I think you'd be forgiven because Llewyn isn't a very common name, but Llewellyn people have heard
another
of.
Bunch
Welsh
of
name.
That make it Llewellyn.
Llewellyn. But Inside Llewyn Davis. Yes, I would agree with you that Back to the Future, while entertaining, is far from perfect. Can a movie with incest at the core ever be considered perfect?
Star Wars.
Also, like, it's just a joke. Yeah.
And it's quite funny. Like,
I think it's quite funny, but people are so serious now. And I'd like to include Jurassic Park, but I would have to argue that one flaw is the midpoint climax, the T-Rex attack, which is more exciting than the end of film climax. Oh, do you agree with that in Jurassic Park?
It's not a problem for me though.
I see. But I would like to throw in a couple of non-English speaking nominations. I recently watched My Life as a Dog from Sweden, which I haven't seen in 30 plus years, and I'm pleased to say it's absolutely delightful and worthy of a consideration as a perfect movie. Likewise, Ivan's Childhood, Tarkovsky's debut film from 1962, and while brutal in its storytelling, hard to fault in any way, it's certainly one of the most beautiful black and white movies ever made. I just want to say that, Nick, you're out intellectualizing us there a little bit. I like it. Yeah. Anyway, I've rambled long enough. Good luck with the lead up to your 200th. And just to throw a question in there, do either of you have big movie blind spots? I can't imagine they would be as egregious as mine. Keep up the good work. Nick from Australia. Yes, we do.
We did a whole episode on it.
And I still haven't seen Rocky. That's my big one.
Yeah. We did a whole episode on it. I just said the other day, I want to do what today?
The
Danny Boyles, what I haven't seen. Thank you so much for that, George. You know, at the Titanic exhibition currently up in London,
the VR one,
I want to take you to go to. They have a thing where you can pilot the wheel of the Titanic in like a digital screen, right? And they've recreated the pilot's crow's nest, whatever,
the bridge,
and they show you when the pilot could have seen it, and they let you try and see if you could steer the Titanic away with enough time. And I think it's basically like you can't. It wasn't the pilot. It absolves the pilot of any guilt.
Well, although they say that they could have, if they actually just slowed down and hit it head on, it probably would have been fine. It would have been fine. It would have taken on water, but it would have had the bulkheads would have been fine to withhold it, and it probably wouldn't have sunk as quickly, and more lives would have been saved.
I think we should have gone, George. I think we should go. Let's go.
This next email
is from Anya, who writes in, Dear James and George, brackets George and James. Long-time listener, first-time emailer here. Listen to your recent episode on Perfect Films Part 2, where you mentioned Mary Poppins has a sad, somber second act.
This was you more than me. I'm less familiar with Mary Poppins. I haven't seen it in such a long time, but you said, you prefer the first act.
I find the second half different. Still wonderful, but there's a sort of a pain of something that's lost.
Melancholy.
A melancholy. This prompted a rewatch of this classic, and I would like to submit a firm objection to your... Okay, I will also say it ends on this wonderfully elated note where they all go fly a kite together and he reconnects with the children.
Anya's been like, I need to submit my rejection to the Ministry of Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Like she's Pulp Kitchen. She's walked in and just like slapped the thing down. Yeah.
I would like to submit a firm objection to your classification of the second act. Yes, it has probably the best minor melody in a musical with Feed the Birds, but it also contains the all-out fun dance number Step in Time, with consistent laugh-out-loud moments throughout.
I just want to say, sorry, Step in Time, when I was a kid, I thought it blew my mind. I thought it was the most amazing film scene I'd ever seen. Yeah. Step in Time, the fireworks,
jumping over the
colours,
buildings.
I thought it looked so much fun. Yeah. I was just like, ah!
Yeah, it's amazing. But it's also sad because
I know.
They're going to Dick Van Dyke because their father's been really mean to them and he doesn't understand. They don't understand their father's anger. And Dick Van Dyke, of course, cheers them up because he's Dick Van Dyke. Step in time! The heart of the story, and is so present, and its melancholy moments, but what consistently floored me is the breadth of character development in the last 30 minutes. Having first watched as a child, and now as someone more jaded in their mid-20s in their first corporate job, the weight of the world held by Mr. Banks, the quiet sadness of Mrs. Banks, and the depth of the love from the children hit me like a ton of bricks. The final scene at the bank felt well earned and could almost feel my shoulders relax as Mr. Banks starts to laugh. Let's Go Fly a Kite brings genuine tears. While sad, yes, that Mary Poppins is leaving, it's a wonderful celebration of the fun and love right the way throughout this film. She's not leaving, she's not needed anymore. The wind's changed.
Growth.
It's growth. Thank you for causing this much needed rewatch. I would venture a perfect musical, but don't get me started on Singing in the Rain. All the best, Anya. And I just want to say, not only is Mary Poppins brilliant, it makes me want to rewatch it. Saving Mr. Banks is actually very, very good. And I give that a lot of praise.
Triple bill. I think we've talked about this on the show before. Triple bill. Mary Poppins, Saving Mr. Banks, Mary Poppins Returns.
I've only seen Mary Poppins Returns once.
But it's not bad.
No, it's not
Better
bad.
than Wonka.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have long conversations. Sometimes we have short ones. This next email is from Luke, who writes in about director's cuts. Hello, George and... No. He says, hello, J and G and G and J. I wanted to know what your thoughts are on director's cuts.
This is really a thing now.
Yeah.
People, you don't really just get...
They're picking sides.
Yeah. No, but I said, like, it is the double-double every time.
Oh, it is the double-double, yeah. Because they're not picking sides, quite crucially. That's the whole point.
The whole joke is that you technically went for me and George first. It doesn't matter that you only left it a letter.
Of course, I wanted to know your thoughts about director's cuts. For me, there is a very fine line between a director's cut being great or indulgent. Of course, studio influence is a big factor for these cuts, but does ego get in the way too much or on certain occasions? One of my personal favorite director's cuts is for Almost Famous. It adds on an extra 40 minutes to an already 2-hour-long movie, but after seeing both cuts, I feel that the extra scenes add a lot of depth and meaning to the story. But it is also impossible to find these director cuts on streaming platforms. I believe you have spoken about these before, but what are some of your favourites and least favourites, bar the usual examples of Blade Runner as a great one, Enhance versus a Snyder cut? Thanks. Always enjoy the pod, even when our opinions don't match, as it's cool to hear why someone loved a movie I didn't enjoy. Luke from Dublin.
Lord of the Rings extended editions. When I go back to watch the theatricals, which I never do, it feels like someone skipped a part of the film. Gives great context to a lot of things that I respect they didn't have time for in the theatrical edition. But if you're a fan and you're rewatching, you're already in for multiple hours. You need to watch the extended editions, even though they're 3 hours and 45 minutes or 4 hours long.
Do I need to do that?
You've not seen them, any of them?
I've seen the first one twice in my life. One when it came out in 2001. Second time I watched in 2013.
Here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Watch the extended editions. We can have this conversation when you want to do it. I can tell you exactly where there are really great places to pause in those films where you can take a break and overnight and still very much enjoy it, especially in Fellowship.
Okay.
But I can help you if it's going to be a big problem for you. But you need to accept, George, you're already in for 3 hour experiences.
Yeah, no, I get it.
There's no escaping that. It's not like there's
in for a penny, in for a pound.
You might as well go and do it if you're going to do the behemoth that is.
I worry that, and I think it's the same with the Harry Potter thing, and it's fine if so. But I am just so familiar with so many bits of it. Like I'm worried that when I get to Return of the King, because I know the Ride of the Rohirrim and a lot of the Battle of Minas Tirith, it's not gonna.
I don't know, when you understand what
context,
what that really means, and them coming together to save each other despite having let each other down,
brilliant,
and riding to their death.
I would say on director's cuts, I can't remember if I mentioned it. I know I mentioned on the show recently that I watched The Shining, right?
Yeah.
But did I mention about the director's cuts?
I don't think you did.
So this is what was interesting. So I think maybe I did say, but if I'm repeating myself again.
Hey,
Here
it's
we
your
go.
podcast. Go for it.
I told you I watched the BBC iPlayer, right?
Yes.
And I put it on, and on online, it's like it's a 2 hours 20 movie, right? I'm like, okay, that's fine, whatever. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, this film's making good headway. And I pause it at one point, and I've got like half an hour left. I'm like, that can't be right. And I look at the runtime, and it's 2 hours, and I'm like,
told me this.
Whoa. I'm like, I got 2 hours on my runtime here, but online it says 2 hours 20. Where's my missing 20 minutes? No. And I'd seen The Shining before, James.
Yeah.
And I knew there was no bits missing. I was like, there's nothing here that I don't remember, or vice versa. So I finished the movie. It was fine. I went online and looked it up. Did you know that there are 2 official Kubrick-approved cuts of The Shining?
I did not know that.
There is the American version, and there is the rest of the world version.
What's the difference?
20 minutes. And no, I know. The difference is that in the American version, there are, unfortunately, it's that classic thing where he was like, the Americans won't understand. We're going to have to leave more stuff in it. So there's more like scenes about, there's more scenes of the head chef coming back. And making his way back to the Overlook. There's more dialogue scenes. The interview scene with Jack Nicholson at the beginning is longer.
Right.
There's just like more context.
The
only bit that honestly stuff that you don't miss. There's only one thing that's cut that I think is a shame, which is that at the end when spoilers The Shining, when Shelley Duvall is running around the Overlook, and the Overlook is starting to reveal itself to her. In the American version, she bursts into the room where the New Year's Eve party was, and it's just full of skeletons in suits and stuff like that. And it's like, but that's not in the European version. But in the European version, it's a tight 2 hours, which is fine.
20 minutes is a lot.
It's a significant.
difference.
Oh, and actually, there's.
So your iPlayer thing had it wrong.
No. The iPlayer was correct, but before watching it online, it's a 2 hours.
Yes.
But the 2 hours version works perfectly. It's great. But I was like, it's not like, oh, now this one's more approved. It's Kubrick approved both versions. Wow. So you don't know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I will just say, by the way, I think I watched when I rewatched The Shining, bloody loved it.
Yeah.
And I really felt like I got it.
Yeah. I understand that movie. Yeah. Well, we still have loads of emails to go. Thank you so much for sending them in. And again, apologies if we do get to them late. We are desperately trying to read out as many emails as we can. As always, keep sending in your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your reviews to
hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com,
and we'd love to read them out on a future episode of the show. Send in your reviews about the films that are out that you're watching. That's always what we want to hear on the show as a priority. But in the meantime, thank you for listening. We will now end with a game. James, as ever, Pulp Kitchen ends
with a game.
And today I'm going to return to the game that I gave you a few weeks ago, which is
great game.
Guessing the movie from the superhero actors in the plot. Okay, we had good fun with this last time. James, I think you're going to do this very well because, after all, you love movies and you're quite good at this game. James, are you ready?
Yes.
Guess the movie from the superhero actors in the plot.
Okay.
Batman kills the Joker over his poor music taste.
There are so many Batmans and Jokers over his poor music taste. Okay. Oh, it's American Psycho.
Yes,
Really,
correct.
I had to cycle through.
Yes, yeah. Christian Bale, Jared Leto.
Done.
Yeah. Wolverine saves Catwoman's baby.
Wolverine saves Catwoman's baby. Oh, well, Les Mis.
Yes.
Les Mis.
Yeah. Deadpool and Mysterio float around with trouble.
Deadpool and Mysterio float around.
Where do you float?
They float around with trouble.
Yeah, there's trouble. Oh, there's trouble where they're floating around.
They're at sea. Oh, it's that one. Life.
Yes.
Life. Yes.
Life with Ryan Reynolds
Yes.
and
Yes.
Jake Gyllenhaal. Magneto suspects Hela of treachery.
Ian McKellen and is it Macbeth?
No.
Hold on, Mr. Ian McKellen. No, or is it? No, it's Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
It's not Macbeth.
No. Who's Hela?
Kate Blanchett.
Recent.
Oh, Black Bag.
Yes. Well done.
Sorry. God, I was thinking Shakespeare there. For both Fassbender and McKellen.
Yeah, it could
easily be Macbeth. Sorry.
Adam Warlock and Johnny Storm deal with shell shock.
Warfare.
Yes. Well done.
Yeah.
Black Widow and Blade go on an egg hunting heist.
Jurassic World Rebirth.
Yes, well done. The Joker and Reed Richards disagree about masks. Reed Richards. It's about masks. Joker.
Recent. You get there. Recent. You didn't like it.
Disagree about masks?
Yes, but not superhero masks.
It's so hard.
6 feet.
Oh, Eddington.
Yes.
Eddington, that Joker. Yes. Well done.
Spider-Man and Yelena come to terms with death.
We Live in Time.
Yes.
It helps to close my eyes.
Yeah. And lastly, Sue Storm beguiles a power-hungry Joker.
Sue Storm beguiles a power-hungry Joker. Oh, wait. Is it Vanessa Kirby?
Yes.
A power-hungry Joker.
Mm-hmm.
Vanessa Kirby.
Mm-hmm.
A power-hungry...
It's funny because this was a big film, but we've forgotten it as a people.
Oh, it's Napoleon.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Joker being Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes, of course.
Those were your superhero actors in the movies. Well done.
Really hard.
Yeah, you did. I think you got all of them. I think you did get all of them.
Yeah, just about. A bit of help on Macbeth.
Yeah.
It's like that game. Have you ever played it online where it's a block color with the text of a color like blue, red, or green written in a certain color. And each round of the game, you have to say, it might be what color the text is, or what color the word is saying, or what color the block color is. And you can play it well for about 20 seconds. But once the game changes, your brain fries.
Yep.
It's kind of like playing this, but for superhero films. And actually, for a minute, it helped me to just shut my eyes and take the face out.
I think the more we went on, the quicker you got. That's like the first one you were quite rusty.
Yes,
you got it. You got them all.
I got that. You know what? The Jokers are hard because there's loads of them. And then the
Batman's
Reed
hard.
Richards, I'm like, is it fucking Miles Teller or is it?
It's not going to be
Ewan
Ewan Griffith.
Yeah, it could be though. And I'd have to play ball
Where
on
is
it.
Ewan Griffith?
What's he up to?
Get him on the show.
What's the
Because
last
we
thing
talk
you
about
saw
him
of it?
all
Yeah,
the
he does
time.
get a job.
He gets mentioned so much.
He's an investor in the podcast. That's why he's
Get
just-
him on Film Bites. Does anyone know Ewan Griffith? Are we
should-
saying it right?
We should keep mentioning him every episode.
Manifest
Ewan
him.
Griffith next week. And also an interview with Ewan Griffith.
Episode Pulp Kitchen 200 will have
Ewan
an
Griffith.
intro from Ewan Griffith.
He's really funny in the
Yes.
Horrible Bosses
Yeah.
film. He's like, I've stored up a rather large amount of pee for this. Not a bad film, Horrible Bosses. One.
One of my favorite lines in that is, you were drag racing. Yes, in a Prius.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Pulp Kitchen. We really appreciate it. This is an independently produced podcast. It's just James and I doing this, and we really appreciate your listenership and your support. It means the world to us, particularly those who have signed up to the Patreon, where you can listen to our exclusive news show, Double Take, where we cover all the hot new news in the film industry.
We'd love to sell out. We're proud to be independent.
Yeah.
We'll be happy to sell out.
I will haul myself out if I need to.
Proud to be independent, not adverse to a huge money deal.
Please don't take that quote out of context. It's been a long day here.
Big money investors, big tech, big
please,
franchise,
please insert debit card here.
Yeah,
Please.
We will only talk about Fast and Furious for the rest of my life if it's paid for. We'll rewatch them. We'll rank them.
Thank you guys, and if you haven't got your tickets yet for episode 200, please
Yes.
get them. If you've really enjoyed this episode and
More
all
games, more
episodes,
fun.
it's like this but live in the flesh. More fun, more games, more film chat. It's gonna be so much fun, and as with our episodes, it's you guys that make it fun.
Do you ever listen to the games and be like, these guys are so crap, how do they do this as a job? I bet I could do better.
Prove it.
Do you fancy doing it on stage in front of 300 plus people? Well, that's what you can do at Pulp Kitchen 200. Will of course be nice to you, but
The link is in the episode description and on all our sort of pages. You can check it there.
we'll see you there.
See you there, guys. Have a great week. Thank
Bye,
you so much, our
guys.
producers.
Oh, thank you.
Finn and Dave. Cheers, guys. Bye.
Next week.